Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I apologize for changing the language. I will be speaking in English. My topic is Europe's enigmatic path to energy transition. The choice of word enigmatic is deliberate, simply to emphasize the uncertainties and the elusiveness of Europe's or Brussels' vision policy towards the continent's transition to clean energy. But before I dive into the topic, let me just say where I'm coming from, why I want to talk about this topic, and why I'm actually entitled to talk about this topic. I represent RECOM Technologies, and I serve as advisor to the CEO. RECOM is a renewable energy company present in the industry since 2007. And RECOM is both solar module manufacturer, it's a Bloomberg Tier 1 manufacturer, the only one in Europe. Along with panels, also RECOM produces batteries, storage, and EV chargers. And along being a manufacturer, RECOM is also an energy producer, that is, developer. So RECOM has these both functions. Our manufacturing facility is in France. We also have a cell manufacturing facility in Italy, but that is sitting idle now, requires the modification to be competitive in the cell market. But our module manufacturing facility is in France. We also manufacture in Asia and the Middle East. Taken all together, we have a capacity about 3 gigawatts per year. On the development front, we've developed over 2 gigawatt solar projects globally. Currently, we have functioning solar plants in Germany and the United States. And as we speak, we are developing over 600 megawatt solar project in Greece. On the top of all this, we're also now partnering in the US with a very reliable partner in the industry to set up a 2 gigawatt cell and module manufacturing facility in the United States, and to benefit from the opportunities that the Inflation Reduction Act in the US provides for the manufacturers and consumers in the United States. The reason I'm mentioning this US venture and bringing up the IRA, simply to contrast the American approach and vision towards energy transition to that of Europe, which I already said is a little bit elusive and uncertain. So the US approach truly differs. So the reason I've talked about this, about RECOM, simply to say that our views on this matter stem from our hands-on and on-the-ground experience in the industry on both fronts, manufacturing and project development. And as we continuously look for expanding the manufacturing capacity, and as continuously we look forward for solar development projects, we are encountering all sorts of policymakers, the legislation of different countries, developers, installers, and that truly gives us the knowledge and the experience to know the goods and bads in this industry and be able to make recommendations as how to proceed in the coming months and years. Europe has set a dual goal of eliminating its reliance and dependence on Russia's oil and gas, at the same time addressing the issue of climate change. Those are the dual goals that Europe has set for itself. At the same time, Europe has set the goal also to lessen its reliance and dependence on import of renewable materials so that it could have a more secure and sustainable value chain production on the continent. Truly, Europe has set the goal of achieving more than 45% or close to 45% of renewable in its energy mix by 2023. In that, having close to 600 gigawatts of solar deployment. This requires enormous acceleration of the deployment of solar projects on the European continent. And truly, Europe has already taken measures to facilitate this deployment. There's the Net Zero facility, there's the European Green Deal industrial project, there's the Repower EU, and also there's this funding facility which is called Recovery and Resilience Fund. All these taken together truly could contribute to the achieving of EU's targets. But again, if you look at this, even collectively, they both are too many, too confusing. On the other hand, if you dig into the content of the provisions of these acts, you see there aren't much that is actionable that will address some of the challenges that both the development industry and the manufacturing industry is facing. So there is a problem there. Europe needs to match what the United States has done through the IRA. There is a simplicity and clarity. What the IRA says, Inflation Reduction Act says, that in exchange for having domestic content that is 40 to 50%, the provisions will provide generous tax incentives to the consumers and developers, at the same time, generous handouts and bonuses for the manufacturers. So the combination of these two truly provides the opportunity to advance both the development and the manufacturing in the United States. The reason I'm talking about this simply to sound the alarm that if the Europe does not rise to this challenge, we will see more European manufacturers moving across the pond to the United States, as we are trying to do, because we see there more opportunities and more help coming from the government than it is now in Europe. So Europe truly faces this challenge. Probably you've heard recently that there's a glut of modules now available in the European market. The prices have come down dramatically. And now there's even some sort of a dumping from the import side. This is truly harming the manufacturers in Europe. And the industry now is sounding the alarm that something needs to be done about this. The cost of producing solar modules in Europe today is more than double of the current spot price in the market. More than double. Just think how the European manufacturer could compete with this kind of situation. We, just a week ago, received a request from Solar Power Europe, which is a membership organization that does lobbying for the solar industry in Europe, in Brussels. They do a very good job helping the industry to raise its concern at the government level. And we received a request from them to support a petition which says that Solar Power Europe and the industry opposes any possible measure by Brussels to put tariffs or duties on imports. This could sound very counterintuitive, right? We should do the opposite. No, the Solar Power Europe's argument is that because the need in Europe to make the energy transition is so vast, we cannot slow down the imports that will harm the development of the solar project to meet the European goal. We understand the logic, but this logic ignores the second half, that is the manufacturing side. Now, we're in some sort of a dilemma. We're considering at management level what to respond. On one hand, as developers, we should be happy with low prices, but as manufacturers, and we are both, we are worried that's going to harm our capability to be competitive in the market. So how Europe can square this circle? The only way this square can be circled if the right policies have been adopted and approached, and I think the right measure is what the United States has done through the IRA. And Europe, we believe, need to rise to that level. We think the solution is that some sort of a moderate, modest duties need to be imposed because truly there's an element of unfairness in this whole thing. Just think of this one. The finished module that enters Europe has no duties or taxes on it. But the European manufacturer that imports the elements to produce modules in Europe has 20% tax on those products, on those elements. So there's here an element of unfairness that Europe needs to address. What solar power Europe is proposing, let's not do this through duties, because Europe tried this in 2012, didn't work, they removed it in 2018, they don't want to supposedly repeat the same mistake. But on the other hand, the recommendations as other options to address this issue are not very effective. They're suggesting that the government should buy the stocks that the local European manufacturers have accumulated because they could not sell it in the market because of the high cost. Well, this is a temporary measure. The other recommendation they make that the government maybe should help the European manufacturers in their operational cost. If this is sustainable and long-term, minimum, as in the case of US is 5 to 10 years, this could make sense. But we very much doubt that Europe will have such a sustainable policy if ever they will adopt such an approach. Thirdly, they recommend that some sort of a bank be established for renewable projects. Well, these are all fine, but we still think Europe will not go that extra measure, take the extra measure and adopt all this, and if they adopt whether these still be very effective. Look, Europe is the continent where the whole solar idea began. Europe created this. It developed. It constantly innovated and disseminated the idea throughout the world. At one point, they just missed the opportunity. They lost their edge. Now that the writing is on the wall, that in the coming years and decades, it's the renewables in the energy mix that will drive the global economy. With the right vision and policy, we believe Europe can reinstate its rightful place in the industry and lead again in terms of innovation and development in the industry for the coming years and decades. Thank you.